Lieutenant Yuna had joined the United Korean Space Service to explore the stars. She had trained for 5 years to learn how to manage supplies for deep space missions. She had studied alien languages, learned about different cultures, and passed every test with high marks. Nobody had ever mentioned that her job would include babysitting. But here she was, sitting in the observation lounge of the UKSS Horizon, surrounded by 6 small alien children who seemed to have more energy than a nuclear reactor. The Valari were a cat-like species from a planet called Velar Prime. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but their bodies were covered in soft silver fur. They had large golden eyes that seemed to glow in dim light, pointed ears that moved to catch every sound, and long tails that swished when they were excited. Adult Valari were tall and graceful, moving with the quiet confidence of predators. The cubs were a different story entirely. Miri, the smallest of the 6, had just crashed into a decorative plant for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. Her brother Teo, the eldest at roughly 8 human years old, was trying to climb the window frame to get a better view of the stars. The other 4 cubs were rolling around on the floor, wrestling and making high-pitched chirping sounds that Yuna had learned meant they were happy. Ambassador Tavik had apologized when he asked Yuna to watch them. His mate, Lady Sora, had become sick during the journey. Space travel sometimes affected Valari in strange ways, and she needed rest. The ambassador had important diplomatic communications to handle. That left the cubs with no supervision. "You are the supply officer," Tavik had said, his whiskers twitching in what Yuna now recognized as embarrassment. "You manage resources. Children are a resource?" Yuna had wanted to explain that managing food supplies and managing 6 hyperactive alien children were very different skills. But she had looked at the ambassador's worried face, thought about how important this diplomatic mission was, and agreed to help. That was 2 hours ago. She was already exhausted. "Human Yuna," Mary called out, finally extracting herself from the plant. "Why do you have no fur? Are you cold? Do you need a blanket?" "I'm fine, thank you," Yuna said, trying to focus on her tablet. She had supply reports to complete. The ship needed to restock at the next station, and she had to calculate exactly how much food, water, and fuel they would need. "Humans don't have fur. We wear clothes to stay warm." "But your skin looks so soft," Nuri said, patting over on her small pawed feet. She reached up and touched Yuna's hand with one fuzzy finger. "Oh, it is soft. Teo, come feel the human." "I am busy," Teo called from his position near the window. He had given up on climbing and was now pressing his nose against the glass, staring at a distant nebula. "The stars are more interesting." Yuna smiled despite her tiredness. The cubs were exhausting, but they were also adorable. Their curiosity reminded her of human children, always wanting to touch everything, always asking questions, always finding new ways to get into trouble. Her stomach growled, reminding her that she had skipped lunch. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a chocolate bar. It was her favorite kind, dark chocolate with tiny pieces of orange inside. She had been saving it for a special occasion, but exhaustion counted as special enough. She unwrapped the bar and broke off a piece. The smell of chocolate filled the air. Every single cub froze. 6 pairs of golden eyes turned toward her with an intensity that made Yuna suddenly feel like prey. Their ears pointed forward. Their tails went still. Even Teo abandoned his stars to stare at the brown square in her hand. "What?" Miri whispered. "Is that?" "It's chocolate," Yuna said slowly, suddenly aware that she had made a mistake. "It's a treat from Earth. Humans eat it when we want something sweet. It smells." Teo stepped closer, his nose twitching. "It smells like nothing I have ever experienced. It smells like happiness would smell if happiness had a smell. Can we try it?" Mary asked, her golden eyes growing even larger. Please, human Yuna? Just a small taste? Yuna hesitated. She knew she should ask Ambassador Tavik first. She had no idea if chocolate was safe for Valari to eat. Some Earth foods were poisonous to other species. She should check the medical database, run some tests, follow proper protocols. But the cubs were looking at her with such hope. And she was so tired. And it was just a small piece of chocolate. Just a tiny bit, she said, breaking the bar into 6 small pieces. Tell me immediately if it makes you feel strange. The cubs gathered around her like she was offering them precious gems. Each one took their piece with careful, reverent pause. They sniffed it first, their noses twitching rapidly. Then, one by one, they placed the chocolate in their mouths. The reaction was immediate. Mary's eyes went so wide that Yuna could see white around her golden irises. Her tail puffed up to twice its normal size. A sound came from her throat, something between a purr and a moan of pure pleasure. Teo sat down hard, as if his legs had stopped working. His ears flattened against his head, then perked up, then flattened again. He seemed unable to control them. The other 4 cubs made various sounds of shock and delight. One of them fell over sideways and just lay there, licking her lips and staring at the ceiling. This, Teo breathed, is the greatest thing I have ever tasted. This is better than fresh fish. This is better than cream. This is better than the special berries we get on festival days. More, Miri said, her voice trembling. Please, human Yuna, I need more. I will do anything. I will clean your room. I will brush your furless head. I will tell Father that you are the best human in all of space. That was all I had, Yuna said, looking at the empty wrapper. But we have more in storage. The ship keeps Earth foods for the human crew members. 6 pairs of golden eyes locked onto her with laser focus. More? Teo repeated. There is more of this substance? On this ship? Right now? Well, yes, but the ship's communication system chimed loudly, cutting her off. Lieutenant Yuna, please report to Cargo Bay 3 immediately. We have a coolant leak that requires your attention. Yuna sighed. A coolant leak meant paperwork, cleanup, and at least an hour of work. She looked at the cubs, who were still licking chocolate residue from their paws with expressions of pure bliss. Stay here, she told them firmly. I will be back in 10 minutes. Do not leave this room. Do not touch anything. She set her tablet on the table, not bothering to lock it. What trouble could 6 small cubs possibly cause in 10 minutes? She would spend the next 3 months asking herself that question. The door closed behind human Yuna with a soft hiss. For a moment, the 6 cubs sat in silence, still savoring the memory of chocolate on their tongues. Mary licked her paw for the 50th time, hoping to find some tiny trace of the brown substance that she had missed. There was nothing left. I want more, said Bora, the 2nd youngest cub. She was smaller than Miri, but louder, with a patch of darker fur on her left ear. Teo, you are the eldest. Find us more. How am I supposed to do that? Teo asked, though his eyes were already scanning the room. Human Yuna said it was in storage. We do not know where storage is. We are not supposed to leave this room. She also said we should not touch anything, Miri pointed out. Her gaze drifted to the tablet sitting on the table, its screen still glowing with soft blue light. But she touched that thing all the time. She was touching it when she found the chocolate. All 6 cubs turned to look at the tablet dot. It was a simple device, flat and rectangular, covered in symbols and pictures that none of them could read. But cubs were curious by nature. Valari children learned by exploring, by touching, by figuring out how things worked. It was how their species had built a civilization that spanned dozens of star systems. We should not, Teo said slowly, even as his paws carried him toward the table. Father would be angry. Father is busy, Bora said. Mother is sleeping. Human Yuna is fixing the cold leak. Coolant leak, corrected Hana, the quietest of the cubs. She spent most of her time reading and rarely spoke unless she had something important to say. And I do not think we should touch the human's device. It might be private. We will just look, Teo said, picking up the tablet carefully. The screen responded to his touch, changing to show a new set of symbols. See? Nothing bad happened. The other cubs gathered around him, pressing close to see the glowing screen. The symbols meant nothing to them, but there were pictures too. Pictures of boxes and crates and containers. Pictures of food items that they did not recognize. That looks like the fish we had for breakfast, Miri said, pointing at an image of something called salmon. And that looks like the round things the humans eat in the morning, added Jinho, a cub with unusually large ears. Toast? No, bread. Bread things. Teo's paw swiped across the screen, and the images changed. More food appeared. Vegetables they had never seen. Fruits in strange colors. Meat from animals that did not exist on their home world. And then they saw it. A picture of a brown bar, wrapped in shiny paper. The word beneath it was in human language, but Teo had learned enough to sound out simple words during his lessons. Cho, ko. Late, he read slowly. Chocolate. This is it. This is the magic food. There is a number next to it, Hana observed, leaning closer. I think it means how many they have. Look, it says. 100? 100 chocolates? Bora's tail began to swish with excitement. That is so many. Surely they would not miss a few. We cannot take them, Teo said, though his voice lacked conviction. We do not know how. There is a button, Miri said, reaching past her brother to tap the screen. A new page appeared, filled with boxes that could be checked and numbers that could be changed. I think this is how the humans ask for things. The cubs studied the screen together. It was like solving a puzzle, and Valari cubs loved puzzles. They figured out that tapping certain boxes made marks appear. They discovered that the numbers could be made bigger or smaller by pressing arrows. They found a section called Special Items that contained even more pictures of strange human foods. Look at this one, Jinho said, pointing at an image of something called gummy bears. The picture showed small, colorful shapes that looked like tiny animals. They're so cute. Do humans eat cute things? And this, Hana added, her usual quietness forgotten in her excitement. Ice cream. It comes in different colors. Pink and brown and white and green. I want to try all of them, Miri declared. Every single one. I want to try the gummy bears and the ice cream and the thing called cookies and the thing called cake. We cannot order all of them, Teo said sensibly. That would be too many. Human Yuno would notice. But if we only order a few of each, she might not notice, Bora suggested. Humans have lots of food. She said so herself. They keep Earth foods for the crew. Teo considered this. It made sense in a cub's logic. The humans had plenty of treats. The cubs only wanted a small taste of each kind. It was not really stealing if they were guests on the ship, was it? Guests were supposed to be offered food. Human Yuna had offered them chocolate. She would probably want them to try other treats too. Okay, he said, making a decision. But we need to be smart about this. We will only order small amounts. Just enough to try each thing once. How do we know what a small amount is? Miri asked. Teo looked at the screen. There was a button that said quantity, and next to it were options. The smallest option said 1 crate. He did not know what a crate was, but one of anything seemed like a small amount. We will order one of each thing we want to try, he announced. 1 crate of chocolate, 1 crate of gummy bears, 1 crate of cookies, Just one of each. The cubs nodded in agreement. This seemed fair and reasonable. They spent the next several minutes exploring the special items menu, marking everything that looked interesting. Chocolate in different flavors. Candy in different shapes. Cookies with different fillings. Something called peanut butter cups that the screen described as chocolate filled with peanut cream. What is peanut? Hannah asked. I do not know, Teo admitted. But if it is inside chocolate, it must be good. They marked that 1-2 dot by the time they reached the ice cream section. They had already selected 47 different items. The ice cream added 3 more, because they could not decide between chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. This is the last one, Teo promised. Selecting a crate of something called birthday cake flavored ice cream, 50 items. That seems like enough to try. Now what? Bora asked. Teo looked at the screen. There was a large button at the bottom that said Submit Order. Next to it was a smaller button that said Priority Level. The priority level was set to Standard, but there was an option for Emergency. Emergency means fast, right? Jinho asked. Like when mother needs medicine quickly? I think so, Teo said. But we do not need it fast. Standard is fine. But what if the ship leaves before the treats arrive? Mary worried. We are going to a station. What if we leave the station before the chocolate comes? This was a good point. The cubs discussed it briefly and decided that emergency priority was the safest choice. They did not want to miss their chance to try human treats. Teo changed the setting to Emergency. Then he pressed the Submit button. The screen flashed green and showed a message. Order confirmed. Emergency priority drone dispatch initiated. Estimated delivery 4 hours. It worked. Miri cheered, bouncing up and down. The treats are coming. We should put the tablet back, Hana said nervously. Human Yuna will be back soon. Teo placed the tablet exactly where he had found it. The cubs arranged themselves around the room, trying to look innocent. Mary went back to the plant she had knocked over earlier. Teo returned to his spot by the window. The others pretended to be interested in the ceiling decorations. They did not know that somewhere in deep space, a fleet of emergency supply drones had just changed course. They did not know that their order had triggered alarms on 3 different space stations. They did not know that 50 crates of human confections, packed in temperature-controlled containers and marked with the highest priority clearance, were now racing toward the UKSS Horizon at maximum speed. They also did not know that 1 crate was not the same as 1 piece. They were about to learn. Commander Don had served in the United Korean Space Service for 23 years. He had survived pirate attacks in the Outer Rim. He had navigated through asteroid storms that would have destroyed lesser ships. He had once talked a hostile alien species out of destroying an entire colony through nothing but patience and careful diplomacy. Nothing in his long career had prepared him for what he was seeing on his console. The alert had started as a small ping, barely noticeable among the dozens of routine notifications that crossed his screen every hour. He had almost ignored it. Supply requisitions were Lieutenant Yuna's department, and she was reliable. If she had ordered something, she probably had a good reason. Then he saw the total cost. Then he saw the quantity. Then he saw the priority level. And his coffee mug slipped from his fingers. Crashing to the floor, Lieutenant Yuna, he said into the communication system, his voice carefully controlled. Please report to the bridge immediately. He spent the 3 minutes waiting for her arrival, reading through the order again and again, hoping he had made some mistake. He had not. The numbers were real. The items were real. The authorization codes were real. Yuna arrived looking tired and slightly dirty. There was coolant residue on her uniform sleeve and a smear of something gray on her cheek. She had clearly been working hard on the leak in Cargo Bay 3. "Sir? You needed me?" Dahan turned his screen toward her. He watched her face as she read the display. He saw the moment understanding hit her because every drop of color drained from her skin. "I did not do this," she whispered. "Your credentials are on the order," Dahan said. His voice still calm despite the storm building inside him. "Your tablet was used to access the system. Your personal authorization code approved the purchase." "I know, but I did not." Yuna stopped. Her eyes went wide. "The Cubs? Excuse me?" "The Valari Cubs. I was watching them in the observation lounge. I left to fix the coolant leak. I left my tablet on the table." Her hands were shaking now. "I do not think they are children. They do not even speak our language fluently. How could they have?" "They ordered 50 crates of human confections," Dahan interrupted. 50 crates, Lieutenant. Each crate contains approximately 200 individual items. That is 10,000 pieces of candy, chocolate, cookies, and ice cream." "Ice cream?" Yuna looked like she might faint. "They ordered ice cream? But that requires special cold storage containers. They ordered 5 different flavors. Each flavor required its own temperature-controlled unit. The emergency drones had to be specially equipped." Dahan pulled up another screen. "Do you know how much it costs to emergency dispatch temperature-controlled cargo drones across 3 star systems?" Yuna made a small sound in her throat. "More than your yearly salary," Dahan answered his own question. "More than my yearly salary. More than most people earn in 10 years of service." The bridge was silent except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Other crew members were pretending not to listen, but Dahan could see them sneaking glances at the scene unfolding at his station. "The order cannot be cancelled," he continued. "Emergency priority shipments are protected by law. Once the drones launch, they must deliver. It prevents people from using emergency services frivolously and then backing out." "But it was an accident," Yuna said desperately. "They are children. They did not understand what they were doing. The system does not care about accidents. The system cares about authorization codes and payment guarantees." Dahan leaned back in his chair, suddenly feeling very tired. "Lieutenant, you are a good officer. You have served well on this ship. But this might end your career." Yuna stood very still. She was young, only 28 years old. She had worked so hard to reach her current rank. She had dreamed of one day commanding her own vessel, of exploring new worlds, of making first contact with undiscovered species. All of those dreams were now floating away from her, replaced by visions of court-martial boards and discharge papers. "I need to speak with the ambassador," she said quietly. "I need to explain. That might be wise." Dahan nodded toward the door. "Go. I will inform Captain Yunji of the situation. She will want to know why emergency drones are about to arrive at our ship with enough candy to feed a small army." Yuna walked off the bridge like a woman walking to her own execution. Her feet felt heavy. Her heart felt heavier. She made her way through the ship's corridors without really seeing them, her mind racing through possible outcomes. She could blame the Cubs. They were the ones who had actually placed the order. But blaming children seemed wrong, especially when she was the one who had left her tablet unsecured. She had been careless. She had ignored basic security protocols because she was tired and distracted. This was her fault. She reached the diplomatic quarters and pressed the door chime. A moment later, Ambassador Tavik's deep voice called for her to enter. The ambassador was standing by a large window, looking out at the stars. His silver fur gleamed in the soft light. His tail moved slowly back and forth, a sign that he was thinking deeply about something. "Lieutenant Yuna," he said without turning around. "I assume you have come to tell me about the supply order." Yuna blinked. You already know? My eldest son confessed approximately 10 minutes ago. Tavik turned to face her, and Yuna was surprised to see that his golden eyes held no anger. If anything, he looked amused. He was very worried. He did not understand why everyone on the ship suddenly seemed so upset about treats. Ambassador, I am so sorry. I should never have left my tablet unattended. I should have locked the screen. I should have. Tavik held up one pawed hand, silencing her. Lieutenant, let me ask you something. How did my children learn to use your supply system? They cannot read your language. They have never seen human technology before this voyage. Yuna paused. She had not thought about that. I do not know. They figured it out by themselves, Tavik said. 6 children, the oldest only 8 years by human counting, faced with an unfamiliar device in an unfamiliar language. And within minutes, they learned to navigate it, place orders, and even change priority settings. He laughed softly. On my world, we would consider this a sign of exceptional intelligence. With respect, Ambassador, the intelligence of your children is not going to pay for 50 crates of candy. No, it will not. Tavik moved to a small desk and picked up a communication device. But I will. Yuna stared at him. What? The Valari Federation will cover all costs related to this incident. He began typing something into the device. I am sending authorization now. Your service's financial department will receive payment within the hour. But the cost is enormous. Why would you do that? Tavik set down the device and walked toward her. Up close, he was very tall, nearly 7 feet by human measurement. His eyes held the wisdom of someone who had spent decades in diplomatic service, negotiating treaties and resolving conflicts across the galaxy. Lieutenant Yuna, he said gently, my children made a mistake. They are young and curious, and they did not understand the consequences of their actions. This is true. He paused, his whiskers twitching. But they only made that mistake because a kind human shared chocolate with them. You did not have to do that. You were tired and overworked and asked to do a job that was not yours. You could have ignored them or sent them away. Instead, you showed them kindness. I just gave them a piece of candy. You gave them a piece of your world. Tavik smiled, showing teeth that were still sharp despite his age. In Valari culture, sharing food is a sacred act. It creates bonds between people. My children now feel connected to you in a way they do not feel connected to anyone else on this ship. Mary has already declared you her favorite human. Even more than the chocolate? Only slightly less than the chocolate, Tavik admitted. She is young. Her priorities are still developing. Despite everything, Yuna found herself laughing. It was a small laugh, barely more than a breath, but it was real. The ambassador laughed with her, and for a moment, the weight of the disaster felt lighter. Now, Tavik said, his tone becoming businesslike. We have 50 crates of human treats arriving in approximately 3 hours. We should probably discuss what to do with them. Captain Yunji had seen many strange things during her 30 years in space. She had witnessed nebulas being born and stars dying. She had met species that communicated through colors and others that spoke in mathematical equations. She had once helped deliver a baby on a cargo ship during an ion storm, using nothing but emergency supplies and pure determination. But she had never expected to hold an emergency meeting about candy. The conference room was crowded. Commander Dohan sat to her right, his face set in the stern expression he wore when he was trying not to show emotion. Lieutenant Yuna sat across from him, looking small and pale despite her average height. Ambassador Tavik had positioned himself at the head of the table, his silver fur practically glowing under the artificial lights. His aide, a young Valari named Kira, stood behind him taking notes on a slim device, And in the corner, under the watchful eye of their father, sat 6 very guilty-looking cubs. "Let me make sure I understand the situation," Captain Yunji said, folding her hands on the table. 50 crates of Earth confections are currently on their way to this ship via emergency priority drone. The order was placed using Lieutenant Yuna's credentials, but was actually made by the ambassador's children. And the Valari Federation has agreed to cover all costs. "That is correct," Ambassador Tavik confirmed. "The financial issue is resolved then." Yunji nodded slowly. "But we still have a logistics problem. Where exactly are we supposed to put 50 crates of candy?" This was the question that had been bothering everyone. The Ux Horizon was a diplomatic vessel designed for comfort and impression rather than cargo capacity. Its storage bays were already filled with supplies for the journey, gifts for the summit, and the personal belongings of the crew and diplomatic staff. "We could store them in the recreation room," Commander Dohan suggested. "It is the largest empty space on the ship. The crew uses that room daily," Yunji pointed out. "And we cannot expect people to exercise and relax surrounded by walls of chocolate." "Perhaps we could jettison some of the less necessary cargo," Kira offered. "Make room in the existing storage bays." "What would you suggest we jettison? The food supplies? The fuel reserves? The ambassador's personal library?" Doan shook his head. "Everything on this ship is here for a reason." The meeting went quiet. Outside the conference room windows, stars drifted slowly past as the horizon continued its journey through space. Somewhere behind them, a fleet of drones was catching up, carrying enough sugar to power a small city. "I have a suggestion." Everyone turned to look at Teo. The young Valari had stood up from his corner seat. His ears pressed flat against his head in what Yuna had learned was a sign of nervousness. His siblings watched him with wide eyes, clearly surprised that he had dared to speak. "You have something to say?" Captain Yunji asked, her tone neither kind nor unkind. "Yes, Captain." Teo swallowed hard. "I am the one who pressed the buttons. I am the one who changed the priority to emergency. This is my fault, not my brothers and sisters, and not human Yuna's." "That is very mature of you to admit," Yunji said. "But I am not sure how that helps our storage problem." "It does not," Teo agreed. "But I was thinking. Father said the treats will be used for diplomatic gifts. The summit we are going to has representatives from many different worlds, yes? 12 different species will be attending," Ambassador Tavik confirmed, looking at his son with new interest. "What is your point?" "Humans are famous for their food," Teo said. "Before I tasted chocolate, I had heard stories. Other species talk about Earth food like it is magic. The Drenari diplomats who visited our home last year would not stop asking about something called pizza. The Corvan traders always try to negotiate for human spices in their deals." Yuna sat up straighter. She had never thought about it that way, but the cub was right. Human cuisine had spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Something about the flavors, the variety, the sheer creativity of Earth cooking appealed to species across dozens of star systems. There were alien restaurants that specialized in human food. There were trade routes dedicated to importing ingredients from Earth. "You are suggesting," Captain Yunji said slowly, "that we use the candy as diplomatic tools?" 50 crates is a lot, Teo continued, growing more confident. "Too much for us to eat, even if we tried very hard. But if every diplomat at the summit received a box of human treats as a gift from the Valari Federation, would that not be a good thing? Father always says that good food makes negotiations easier." Ambassador Tavik began to laugh. It started quietly, a low rumble in his chest, but it grew until his whole body was shaking with it. He threw his head back and roared with amusement, his golden eyes squeezed shut. Kira looked alarmed. Commander Dawn looked confused. Captain Yunji raised one eyebrow but said nothing. "Father?" Mary asked uncertainly. "Are you okay?" I am wonderful, Tavik managed, wiping tears from his fur. My son, you have accidentally done something brilliant. I have? The Volari Federation has been trying to strengthen our ties with the other species at this summit for years, Tavik explained, still chuckling. We have offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, military alliances. Some have accepted, others have remained distant. He looked at the confused faces around the table. Do you know what we have never tried? Food diplomacy? Food diplomacy? Yunji repeated. Sharing meals creates bonds, Tavik said. It is true for my people, and as I understand it, for humans as well. When you eat with someone, you are telling them that you trust them enough to be vulnerable in their presence. You are saying that you see them as an equal, worthy of sharing resources with. That is a very poetic way to describe candy, Dohan muttered. Perhaps. But imagine this. Tavik stood and began to pace, his tail swishing with excitement. The Volari delegation arrives at the summit with gifts for every attending species. Not the usual political tokens, not treaties or proposals or demands. Instead, we offer something personal, something rare, something that they have heard about but perhaps never tasted. Human treats, Yuna said, understanding dawning on her face. Human treats, Tavik confirmed. Chocolate for the species who can metabolize it safely. Fruit candies for those who cannot. Cookies, cakes, and confections from a world that most of them will never visit. And we tell them, this is a gift from the Volari people. We share it with you because we want to build friendship, not just alliances. The conference room was silent again, but this time it was a thoughtful silence. Even Commander Dohan's stern expression had softened slightly. Captain Yunji tapped her fingers on the table, considering the proposal. It could work, she admitted. Unconventional, but effective. There would be some species who might be offended, Kira pointed out. The Morvani, for example, consider food gifts to be an implication that they cannot provide for themselves. We will present it differently to them, Tavik said dismissively. A cultural exchange rather than a gift. They love to feel superior to other species anyway. Let them believe they are doing us a favor by accepting. What about storage? Dohan asked, returning to practical matters. We still need somewhere to put everything until we reach the summit. We could convert the emergency shelter in Section C, Yuna suggested. It has climate control for survivors and could easily maintain the cold temperature needed for ice cream. We have not needed it for actual emergencies, and the summit is only 5 days away. Make it happen, Captain Yunji decided. Lieutenant, work with the engineering team to prepare the space. Commander, coordinate with the drone fleet to ensure smooth delivery and transfer. Ambassador, please prepare a list of which species can safely consume which items. I do not want any diplomatic incidents caused by accidental poisoning. Everyone nodded and began to rise from their seats. The crisis had transformed into an opportunity, and there was work to be done. One moment, Yunji said, and everyone froze. She looked directly at the 6 cubs still huddled in their corner. You 6, come here. The cubs approached the captain slowly, ears flat, tails dragging. Miri looked like she might cry. Even Teo, who had been so brave a few minutes ago, seemed to shrink under Yunji's steady gaze. You made a very big mistake today, the captain said. You touched something that did not belong to you. You used a system you did not understand. You could have caused serious problems for the ship and everyone on it. We are sorry, Teo whispered. We only wanted to taste more treats, I know. Yunji's expression softened just a little. And that is why you are not in real trouble. But you will help Lieutenant Yuna organize the cargo when it arrives. You will carry boxes and count items and do whatever she tells you. You made this mess, so you will help clean it up. Understood? 6 small heads nodded in unison. Good. Captain Yunji allowed herself a small smile. Now go with your father. And no more ordering things without permission. As the cubs filed out of the room, Yuna heard Miri whisper to her brother, "Does this mean we will get to touch the treats?" "Probably," Teo whispered back. "But I think we should not eat any without asking this time." "Agreed," Miri said solemnly. "Maybe only a few. Very small ones. As payment for our hard work." Yuna pretended not to hear. 3 months had passed since the incident that everyone on the X horizon now called the Great Candy Crisis. The ship had completed its mission to Station Orion 7. The summit had ended. The diplomats had returned to their home worlds. Life had gone back to normal, except that nothing was really normal anymore. Lieutenant Yuna stood in her small cabin, staring at the official message on her screen. She had read it 4 times already, and she still could not quite believe it. The United Korean Space Service had awarded her a formal commendation. The document praised her instrumental role in facilitating unprecedented cultural exchange between Earth and the Volari Federation. It mentioned her creative approach to diplomatic challenges and her ability to turn unexpected situations into opportunities for cooperation. It did not mention that the whole thing had started because she forgot to lock her tablet. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Commander Doan standing in the hallway, his expression as unreadable as always. "Commander," she said, stepping aside to let him enter. "I was not expecting you. I wanted to deliver something personally." He handed her a slim package wrapped in plain brown paper. "This arrived with the regular supply delivery. It was marked for you specifically." Yuna unwrapped the package carefully. Inside was a box made of dark wood, polished until it gleamed. The lid was carved with delicate patterns that she recognized as Volari design flowing lines that represented the wind. Patterns on their home world. She opened the box and found it filled with small treats. Candies wrapped in colorful paper. Chocolates shaped like stars. Tiny cookies no bigger than her thumbnail. And sitting on top of everything was a folded piece of paper. She opened the note and read, "Dear Human Yuna, thank you for the treats. We are learning to type properly now. Father says this is important. We practiced very hard to write this letter. Hannah helped with the spelling. We will not order 50 crates again. We promise. Maybe only 10 crates next time. Or 5. 5 is a small number. Father took us to the summit. We met many aliens. The green ones liked the gummy bears best. The tall ones with 4 arms ate 7 boxes of cookies. One of them made a sound like crying, but Father said it was a happy sound. Everyone said the treats were the best gift they had ever received. Father signed 4 new agreements. He says this is very good for our people. He also says we might have started a new tradition. Now every summit might have human treats. Mother is feeling better. She tried the chocolate too. She made the same face we made." Father laughed at her. She threw a pillow at him. "We miss you, Human Yuna. You are still my favorite human. Even better than the chocolate now. But please do not tell the chocolate. I do not want its feelings to be hurt. Come visit us on Vala Prime someday. We will show you our favorite climbing trees. Your friends forever. Miri, Teo, Bora, Hana, Jinho, and Yuri. P.S. The treats in this box are from our own money. Father did not pay for them. We saved up. This is our thank you gift. P.P.S. Teo says, I should not have told you about the trees, because now you will know all our best hiding spots. I told him that hiding spots are better when you share them with friends." Yuna realized she was crying. Not sad tears, happy ones. The kind that come when you feel overwhelmed by kindness that you did not expect. "Lieutenant?" Dohan's voice was unusually gentle. "Are you all right?" I am fine. She wiped her eyes and showed him the note. It is from the Cubs. Dahan read the letter, his stern expression slowly cracking into something that might have been a smile. When he finished, he handed it back to her with a small shake of his head. 50 crates of candy, he said. And somehow, it worked out. It did. You know, the Admiral contacted me last week. Dahan paused, seeming to consider his words carefully. The Valari Federation has requested that human treats be included in all future diplomatic shipments to their space. They are particularly interested in something called birthday cake ice cream. Yuna laughed. Mary wrote about that in one of her earlier letters. She called it frozen happiness. The request has caused quite a stir in the supply department. Apparently, nobody had ever considered confections as a diplomatic resource before. They are now developing an entire protocol for culinary diplomacy. He paused again. Your name came up several times during the discussions. My name? They want to consult with you. The officer who accidentally started a new form of interspecies relations. Dahan's almost smile grew slightly wider. There is even talk of creating a new position. Something like cultural food liaison. If such a position were to exist, you would be the obvious candidate. Yuna stared at him. You are joking. I do not joke, Lieutenant. You know this. She did know this. In all her time serving under Commander Dahan, she had never once heard him make a joke. The man took everything seriously, from supply reports to coffee ratios. Think about it, he said, moving toward the door. And lock your tablet from now on. We do not need another incident. After he left, Yuna sat down heavily on her bunk. The box of treats sat open on her desk, filling her small cabin with the sweet smell of sugar and chocolate. The note from the Cubs was still in her hand. She thought about everything that had happened. The exhaustion of watching 6 hyperactive alien children. The terror of seeing the supply order on Commander Doan's screen. The relief when Ambassador Tavik offered to pay. The surprise when the disaster transformed into success. The joy of watching alien diplomats taste chocolate for the first time. Their faces lighting up with wonder. It had all started with a single piece of candy, and a moment of kindness. Her tablet chimed with a new message. She picked it up, making sure to check the lock screen first, a habit she had developed since the incident. The message was from the ship's records department. Lieutenant Yuna, please be advised that your actions during the Valari diplomatic mission have been added to the official training materials for the United Korean Space Service. New Regulation Section 47.3 regarding personal devices around alien minors now includes a reference to Incident Report number 4471, colloquially known as the Chocolate Incident. She scrolled down and found the new regulation. All personnel are required to enable biometric locks on tablets and communication devices when in the presence of alien species juvenile members. Requisition system access must be separately secured. Addendum 47.3.1. The maximum quantity button has been removed from all non-essential supply interfaces. Addendum 47.3.2. Under no circumstances should human confections be shared with Valari Cubs without direct supervision. See Incident Report number 4471 for reference. Addendum, the 3rd of March 47. If human confections are accidentally shared with alien minors, personnel are advised to secure all devices immediately and contact a superior officer. Addendum, the 4th of March 47. Despite the positive outcome of Incident Report number 4471, personnel are reminded that not all accidents result in diplomatic breakthroughs. Please follow proper protocols. Yuna printed the regulation and framed it. She hung it on her wall, right next to the commendation certificate. Together, they told the story of the strangest, most wonderful mistake of her career. That night, she wrote a long letter back to the cubs. She told them about the regulation, knowing they would think it was funny. She told them about the possible new job and how she was not sure if she should take it. She told them that she missed them too, and that she would love to see their climbing trees someday. She ended the letter with a promise. I still have not changed my tablet password. I probably should. Everyone keeps telling me to make it more secure. But every time I think about changing it, I remember a small silver cub asking me what chocolate was. And I smile. Some accidents, I have decided, are worth repeating. But maybe next time, we will start with just one crate. She sealed the letter, addressed it to the Valari embassy, and placed it in the outgoing mail slot. Then she sat by her window and looked out at the stars, eating a small chocolate from the box the cubs had sent her. It tasted like friendship. It tasted like adventure. It tasted like the beginning of something new. Somewhere across the galaxy, on a planet covered in silver forests, 6 cubs were probably getting into trouble again. Una smiled at the thought. She hoped they were having fun.